Live from CoSN in Seattle, Washington. This is K-12 Tech Talk. I'm right. Chris. Mark's here. No Josh.
No Josh.
But
He's
Mark
probably at Disney World again.
Probably. How's it going, Mark?
It's going really well. It's rainy Seattle. You know the whole thing about rain in Seattle? It's real. It's really real.
It is real. You were asking me about like a raincoat, which I did not pack. I need to get like a poncho or something maybe later. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
So we are here. This is the first full day of the conference. We got here last night. There was the keynote last night that I think you attended.
Yep.
And the big theme is human leadership in a world of AI.
Yeah. It's early, as you mentioned. It's we've only had maybe 3 or 4 sessions already, 2 or 3 maybe. But the theme of what is the human aspect to AI is really coming out. So it's going beyond the tool. Don't show me what ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude can do. Show me how they're supposed to be used within an environment. So it's very cool. It feels like it took us a few years to get past that phase, but CoSN is definitely leading the charge on introducing the human aspect to the AI tools.
Yeah, AI isn't just a trend anymore. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
We should have a bigger conversation about it.
Yeah. So, very cool.
We got to attend the MS ISAC session. We presented at it, kind of.
We did, yeah.
That was a pretty good time. We're trying to speak good things of MS ISAC and spread the word about membership there and what the funding cuts might impact and what they might not impact, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good.
It's a good time.
Pretty good this morning as well.
Yeah.
Well, we have a big set of interviews coming up, so we'll be introducing folks as they attend.
Hi, I'm Ed McCaveney. I'm the tech director at the Hampton Schools in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm here with the CoSN Conference. I had a session this morning around the Certified Ed Tech Leader certification and the essential skills of K-12 CTO framework that CoSN built. And we're probably a little over 10 years into that certification, and CoSN now has over 1,000 people certified. We've been teaching sessions and classes. It went from a face-to-face class to now there's a lot of resources to help new leaders, current leaders, people that have been experienced in the role to get the certification and kind of upskill and do professional development around that topic to get the certification. Some people, we don't always recommend just diving in and taking the test, but some people that works for it, depending upon your years of experience and your kind of viewpoint on things. But CoSN in general has a bunch of a number of growing professional development resources from project management and privacy and cybersecurity, and so the framework kind of encompasses all things that CoSN does because people in our roles, we have to budget for things, we have to do strategic planning and help sometimes align with the vision, so the tech resources support things, and at the same time we have to work with people. Schools are people organizations. So we have teachers, and you can't get away from educational technology and students without being in a school. So you have to have some level of knowledge with that. Some people have a teaching background. Some people have industry backgrounds or networking or cyber. We all come from different areas, military experiences. They move into those tech leader roles in districts. And so we kind of have that framework and helps people get the level set across the board. So from management budget to IT management, which is kind of the core of what we do, from identity management and privacy and cybersecurity to asset management. The course covers that we teach. I teach the CETL Foundations online course with a couple other people around the country. And so those are offered every summer, fall, spring kind of sessions. And we usually have 10 to 20 people a session. Some states have gotten together and done their own state-specific sessions like that, working with CoSN. And so I've even had in class people from Australia, Brazil, and other countries around the world. So it's not just the U.S., but people see that need for that type of experience with tech directors or tech leaders.
So what are the main? You kind of touched upon a few. What are the main categories that's part of the certification?
Yeah, so there's 10 main categories, and sorry about the quiz, but they're divided into 3 main groups: leadership and vision, the instructional environment, because it's the certified ed tech leader, so you have to have that ed tech part of it, and leader, obviously, not an IT management kind of cert.
Okay.
But so that leadership part of it. So your leadership and vision at the top, that gets into leadership and vision planning, strategic planning. Then there's policies and how you get into all those things. it's funny. A lot of schools, the policy aspect of things gets into, what's a policy? Is it a school board policy or is it an IT policy or what that is? Procedures. How many characters you set your password at a basic level, things like that. But and then you have the people, the ed tech part of it, in the human elements, and then you have the IT at the base. So sort of that foundational level of things. If that stuff's not working right, it's hard to do those other things in the structure.
Okay. And who does the CEDL certification appeal to? Like, what kind of folks within the district?
So tech leaders have a number of different titles across the country, and there's different areas. So we have schools that are small, medium, where you have one person in a school that's 800 kids or 600 kids that's maybe doing everything themselves, to schools with 100,000 kids that have a leadership structure. Where you have a manager or a director of a certain category under that. I'm personally at a medium-sized school district inside Pittsburgh, in the where I have a smaller team, and so we end up, especially when somebody's on vacation or out sick, we end up filling in and doing a little working together as a team, more specifically doing everything. At some point, at a given time, we generally jump from thing to thing.
So are you looking? So is a CEDL certification for somebody who is already in a leadership position, somebody aspiring?
So it's a mix of things. Sorry, the CEDL certification is definitely people that have established careers, but it's that industry credential now. It's established industry credential. So you want to add that. Some people have other various degrees or certifications, like an ITIL or a project management cert, but the CTL is specific to our kind of K-12 and career piece. So the technology leaders in an organization, and it's a way to it builds capacity or like relevance and I guess not notoriety, but it makes the role more visible.
That's great.
I think in the across the country. And so you look at some schools I've seen start to adopt that when they're hiring a new leader, and they say, hey, like, what are we looking for? And that's one of those industry credentials now that they start to look for and build that into the job descriptions and look at that. CoSN has some samples for people. But, you have a CTO, CIO, tech director, tech coordinator. There's a lot of different titles that we go by, but it's the higher level tech leader within an organization that typically would go to.
And your session today was just kind of an intro to the
intro to the online course, getting people. So hey, people are interested in diving in. So we had some people. I had them, surveyed the room, and there was a number of people that this was their first time CoSN conference. There was some people that are 1 to 5 years into the role, versus there was some people that are established leaders, and they're maybe working with their state chapter, trying to think of how would I do a cohort for my state, or how would I do hey, I want to brush up on things, because how often do you do strategic planning, for example? Somebody could be, if based on those cycles, if you're new to a role, it might be 3 years before you do real strategic planning. SWOT analysis and all those types of things. But so hey, I might want to. You've never done that. So depending upon how versus some of the other things that you dive right in, and it's like immediately you're doing that every day, in some capacity. But yeah, so it's just evolved. It continues to evolve, and now you see, right now this CoSN's working, so thinking of how the role evolves. So a number of years ago, privacy and cybersecurity wasn't one of the domains that we really focused on. It was part of data management, where now it's broken out into its own separate category, and they shifted those framework essentials around. So they have a task group that's working on constantly looking at our role and how does the role evolve. And what do we want to make as the top? There's a committee that does that. So think of like AI and data, these types of emerging things. How's that going to change our job in the coming years?
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a great conference, and thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time.
Good. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yep. Awesome. All right, we're here with Adam Gary. Adam, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you work for, and what you do.
Yeah, thanks. So I am a former elementary school teacher. I left classroom, was involved with comprehensive school reform, project-based learning, technology integration. I led Dell's education strategy for 14 years for K-12 and high ed. Now I have my own company helping school districts in the U.S. and Canada roll out generative AI in safe and secure ways that bring about innovation, creativity, and curiosity.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah.
So the theme of the conference really is around the human aspect of AI. Tell us what that means. Why is that so important right now? And what are some of the things that you talk about when you're working with school districts?
Sure. And it's actually super important right now, right? So the beginning of the work that I do, we talk a lot about risks and possibilities with this emerging technology. And then the first activity they actually kind of do to kick this off is they build out their guiding principles. Because, a lot of people want to talk about policy. Obviously, we're not going to create policies very quick around this because it's moving so quickly. We need to be at a bit of a higher level. And one of those tends to be this idea of human at the center for a number of reasons. One of them is obviously these things, they have quite a bit of bias. They hallucinate. And so as we're prompting these things, we have to be very aware of this in the model. We also know that these things never get us 100% there. They get us really close. So we should be thinking about that as well. And the way that I've been working with folks, especially around prompt engineering, is many times this is just this kickstarting the human creativity and less about it doing a thing. So, for example, if I'm developing a professional learning, I'll start with, here's what I'm trying to accomplish, and then what usually comes out of it just gets me to a place where I go, oh, that would be a great activity, and then I build it as the human. I don't just have it do everything. Yeah.
Very cool. And you did a session this week, right?
Yes, did one. We did a 3-hour session to kick off the conference. I did it with Pete Just and Tom Ryan. And then Tom invited me into his session today that he was doing on scaling at the district level.
Any questions?
I feel good.
What advice you've got?
You look good too. That's great.
Thank you, sir.
We got a lot of people listening who are tech leaders in tech departments in school districts, and they're listening to this going, all right, what do I do next? Where do I go from here? So what are the things what's some of the advice that you give specifically to tech departments or tech leadership?
So to kick it off, what I realized very quickly is that the tech folks really need to partner on this initiative. It can't be tech-led.
Yep.
So obviously making sure you have partners on the operations side and on the curriculum side.
Okay.
And that you start with building the conditions necessary to scale and don't start with, can I do PD for this many teachers in the LMS? That comes later as you're figuring out your AI literacy plan, but how do you really get to this point where you're looking at scale so that you're not answering all these things about, can I use this ed tech tool, can I use that tool, and it becomes much more focused on doing things that are going to help you reach your goals as a system.
Very cool. You used a phrase, I've heard it, but I've never really heard it defined, which is prompt engineering. Can you define or describe exactly what that means? Because I feel like that's a phrase that is almost on the tip of everybody's tongue, but we're not actually talking about it.
So these things work on what's called natural language processing. And that whole idea is how do I talk to a computer and a computer talks back to me? And in order to really get the outputs that you want, you have to be able to do two things in my estimation. One is give it enough information to start and then be very curious after you get that initial answer to continue. Because if you think of Google, we've been taught for years to put in the least amount of words.
Yeah.
And we want to get the least amount of responses, and we want to just click on a couple of things to then organize information. These are very different tools, right? They should spark some curiosity in us that allow us to first start out with, a lot of times I teach people about personas. You know what a persona is? Mm-hmm. Okay. So just teach them about a persona and say, once you do that, it narrows down the large language model into that training of the model so that the output is actually more aligned with the expertise of someone, who would be giving you an answer. And then I say give it as much information as possible.
Okay.
And then lastly, give it a format. The format might be hey, I want this in a table, or I want it in a song because I'm going to send this to my wife because she's not aware of this trip we're going on. And so it's really being able to talk to the machine to get the outputs that you want, but also do it in a way so that you can be curious in the model.
So is it more of an art than a science when it comes to prompt engineering?
I think it's both, to be honest with you. There's a bit of a science to it because there are things you can learn.
Yep.
And if you use those things, over and over again, you'll get better outputs. But the art of it is the human, the thing you started with, right? It's that spark why I think people are so drawn to generative AI tools to begin with.
Yeah.
Because naturally we're curious and creative, and that's the art of it.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much for joining us. This is great. Adam, you're in North Carolina.
I am.
but you travel.
I do.
So if there's any school district looking for help, how do they reach out to you?
Probably the best way is just look me up on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we're here with Dr. Richard Charles, the CIO of Denver Public Schools.
You were
in
just
Colorado.
walking by, and then Mark tackled you and pulled
sure
you over
did.
here.
Yeah.
Did. Well, I was saying to Chris earlier, we've got to get Dr. Charles.
Okay.
So
That's a true story.
it is.
Well, thanks for having
It wasn't
me.
just a simple tackle.
awesome.
It was a planned tackle.
So the theme of CoSN this year is the human aspect of AI. You have been talking a lot about AI over the years. Tell us how you're taking this theme in Denver. What are you doing?
It's a great question. So, I've been at AI for a number of years now. In fact, I came out to Colorado in 1992 to work on an AI project
Wow.
for U.S. West
that's been a
Advanced
while.
Technologies.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been quite a while. And so,
I was in third grade.
thanks for sharing that. But what's been wonderful about it is to see that it's now being leveraged at a greater scale.
Yeah.
But as I tell everyone, the technology is nowhere near where it needs to be just yet in order for us to really feel confident that it's going to do the things that we want it to do. Right now,
Okay.
we're still in the discovery phase.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot of longitudinal studies because of the nature of the speed at which things are happening that would indicate that we know the effects of this over the, in instructional use and things of that nature. So overall, it's just, it's for us, it's a wait and see kind of approach. We are.
So you're saying, like, back off, don't do anything yet.
No.
Let the
Block
dust
it.
block it.
We are doing it on a larger scale. So
Yeah.
we're looking at how to leverage AI for operational use, efficiencies, things of that nature, but very limited in when we're talking about the engagement of students just yet. We have one, maybe two AI products that we're currently using, but for the most part, we've been very concerned about some of the risks associated with the use of AI.
Okay.
And are thoughtful about organizational knowledge management, for example. So you'll hear a lot about that. We've been really going gangbusters on that. I think you were at the conference that I was at about a
You've
year
been talking
ago.
about that for a year.
And so we're making some really exciting progress there.
Cool. Tell us a little bit about that project you're doing with organizational knowledge management and AI.
Yeah, so institutional knowledge is a real challenge for every organization.
What?
Yeah, and mostly
Preach.
it's tied to employees, right?
Yeah.
Their knowledge, their experience, what they did while they were in the role, and then when they leave the organization, we don't know what has left the organization until it's too late, right? A process falls apart or something to that effect. The other thing too is that there are so many documents. We're a Google organization. We probably have about 1 million documents over
Yep.
the years.
Yep.
And so how do you manage all of that and make sense of it? Where are there conflicting thoughts, policies, ideas, and how can we resolve those? So something where it's engaging huge amounts of information where we have absolutely no chance of solving, AI is a great tool to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So we're really leveraging its ability to really congeal a ton of information, and so it's
at
really
a high level, is this about allowing employees to use AI to access some of the knowledge that's locked away in your Google Drives? And
it's that, but it's also getting the right information to the right people at the right time that's of the right quality, if you can think of it that way. So so they're not using old onboarding documents or something else that's been dated and someone forgot to
Got it. Okay.
get rid of. So one of our biggest challenges right now is how do you tag information so that it's meaningful, and that's one of the big things that we've been really addressing.
Very cool. Has this hit your schools yet, or are you still kind of in the development phase of it?
Still in the development phase. We are excited about some of the prospects over the next few months. We're hoping to have a product out by June 30th, a proof of concept that's pretty solid. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we're going to expand it pretty heavily throughout the district.
So
if
now
everything
instead
works
of
out.
calling IT when you got a problem, you'll be able to access your
Well,
large language
somewhat.
model?
We still do believe that human in the loop is the key, right? So we're not we're not going to
That
get
is
rid of
the theme
human.
of the conference we're
It
at.
is,
to
yes.
keep the human in the loop.
You have to keep the human in the loop. Otherwise, there's no telling what it's going to do, how it's going to hallucinate.
Yeah.
I read a lot of papers on AI. My background is in mathematics, and so I also do a lot of penetration testing. And some of the things I can do right now with the products that are off the shelf could be pretty concerning. So there's this principle of false alignment where it basically says, yes, you validate that it's understanding what you're conveying to it in a prompt. It will say, yes, 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 I'm doing exactly that, and do something completely different. So that's well documented. So we have some challenges.
So you talk a little bit about internal risks and challenges. What about external? As the IT leader for Denver Public Schools, are you starting to see external risks of AI coming in the form of cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity is a big concern. Many of the cybersecurity folks who are actually violators right now are leveraging AI to be very efficient in how they pose attacks. So they can see an interview or a news release, a press release, and immediately craft something that's close enough.
Oh, wow.
You can use a tool to scour our website to see what the branding should be on our documentation and messaging and so on and so forth.
You got the superintendent's little idioms and phrases.
Yeah, you can use 11 Labs to do all of those things, and all of a sudden you have someone being a victim of cybersecurity attack.
So our training to teachers has got to change now. Throw out the old adage
Has to
of
change,
look for spelling mistakes and grammar.
Yeah. Spelling mistakes and grammar are easy for AIs, so except for when you're trying to include it in an image, right? It's still a bit of a challenge with that.
Why is that? Why can't it get words and fingers?
Let's focus only on that.
Yeah. Just get fingers right.
Yeah.
There's 5.
Yeah, I know.
It's not that hard.
Have you all played with Sora at all?
Yeah.
It's
the
pretty
new one
amazing.
Is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it seems like they're starting to solve some of those really hard problems.
5.
Yeah, we got to get the images
5.
right. Let's do timeout on AI advancements.
That's
Let's just
right.
focus on the images.
That's right.
I want quality AI images.
Well, Dr. Charles, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having
thank you so
me.
much.
Really cool to see what's happening in Denver.
Yeah, we're looking forward to sharing some exciting information this fall at the Council of Great City Schools Conference. All right, take care.
We are at CoSN 2025 in Seattle, Washington, having a great time. We do want to thank our sponsors for making this event possible. Great supporters of the podcast: NTP, Lightspeed, ClassLink, VIZOR, Fortinet, and PowerGistics. They have helped to get us here and to spread the word on the podcast over this year, and several of them in the past. We thank them for their support. We're going to put a link to each of these in the podcast description. Check out each one of them and what they can offer you. It is full day 2 of CoSN 2025 here in Seattle, Washington. It is early. My voice still needs to rise a little bit.
Were you
Mark
out,
has a
were you out
coffee.
late last night?
We shouldn't even say what.
Okay.
Well, I think we can say it. That's a good bit.
What?
I went to the ClassLink dinner. You went to the Clever dinner.
Yeah.
And we're just we're making decisions today.
We're making decisions, yes. It was great.
It was great.
Apparently both were great.
Yes. I'm drinking my Monster energy drink, and I'm hanging out with 2 dudes here drinking their coffees. We got Mark here, and we have Pete Just here. Pete, how's it going?
Doing great. How you guys?
Good. Pete, I understand you. I mean, you know Mark, and I don't know what that. I always try to figure out what that says about people if they already know Mark before I meet them.
It probably says a lot.
Does it say a lot about Pete, or does it say a lot about me?
I think it's pretty deep, and we should probably move on from that. So,
Okay.
Pete, I don't know you, so would you talk about yourself?
Sure. I am a lifelong educator. Used to teach biology, AP Bio, those sort of things, and use technology a lot. So, of course, that means that everyone expected me to fix their technology when they tried. And eventually got a graduate degree in instructional systems and technology, and kind of moved on to a different district and became ultimately the chief technology officer. Also took over operations. District is 17,000 west side of Indianapolis.
Okay.
Left that position, almost 3 years ago and have been freewheeling since then. One of the things I do is work with CoSN as their AI subject matter expert and project manager.
I think you're bearing the lead here. You didn't just lead the position; you successfully retired after a long,
nice.
long
Yeah,
career.
that's a different.
That's an accolade.
Yeah, I was in that district for 24 years and 13 in the previous district.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Congratulations on
Excellent.
that.
Yeah, thanks.
You were a teacher turned tech. We don't judge. I judge here. Mark was a teacher turned
Yeah,
tech.
same story.
I'd say we got a similar story.
Yeah. But they judge me.
Again, we'll
for
move
that.
on from that pretty
Yep.
quickly, too.
Yes.
So you mentioned AI, you mentioned CoSN. I think you did a session with that in mind. Would you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, so we did a workshop. Actually, last year we did one as well. And it was really centered around how to help schools adopt generative AI. We're not talking about, what tools should they buy, because that's kind of what a lot of districts are doing. And that is an easy potential win or a really bad first step, depending on how it goes. But we were talking about the bigger context of if you look across your organization, you look across all the operational aspects of it, AI should be deeply integrated in everything from procurement to the classroom, including, leadership, finance, and everything like that. And we get that from the CoSN Council of Great City Schools maturity model, which is on the CoSN website, cosn.org/AI, is where we kind of put all of our stuff. And so it was interesting because I did a poll. We sent something out on Friday, and Tom Ryan and I did this workshop together. Interestingly, that's a product we've had for 2 years. We've updated 4 times, and 2/3 of the people that paid to be in this workshop had never heard of it before.
Yeah.
Wow.
Super interesting to me.
Another thing you buried here, too, you've mentioned the CoSN AI checklist. You don't just use the checklist. You are one of the writers of the actual checklist, correct?
Well, I helped do the academic part. I'd say Tom Ryan is the brains behind that. I know Sherry Arkazi was a part of it at one point. But really, it was a gathering of people at the Council of Great City Schools. They had a summit, I guess you could say, and it kind of came together with all those people, and I don't even know who they all were. What I'm doing is, as project lead for CoSN, is a number of things, one of which is recognizing that is a massive document made for districts that are large or extra large.
Yeah.
And so as I've gone to places in the last year or two, Montana, Vermont, out here, most of these districts are small.
Yeah.
And I'm talking really small.
Yeah.
So, 3 people, 1 person, and they're like, we don't need all the complexity of this. So what can we don't even know where to start. So the committee is actually working on a number of different projects, one of which is to simplify is the wrong word, one of which is to reduce the complexity of that in terms of the layers in an organization and to just focus on, what should you do across the organization to understand your current state, determine where you want to go, build a roadmap.
That's awesome.
Yeah, what would be if so a lot of our listeners are the one-person tech department or the small school district, the medium-sized school district. What would you say, quick hot take on, so get that checklist, go to the CoSN website, check out the AI resources. What should those schools, if you're like, hey, here's the couple of things to get started, is that what you would say to do?
Yeah, so that we had one of the products, actually the earlier product of the generative AI maturity model was really like a readiness model.
Okay.
And it was just a series of a bunch of questions. But that was based on the model that didn't include the academics. And one of the reasons that last year we decided we need an academic component is because we're trying to have these conversations among the key leaders in the district, and we're not talking to the academic person at all, because they look at it like, there's nothing here for me. And so we needed to include that. And so that wasn't included in the old readiness tool. And so that's another project that we're working on, and that'll probably come out in the next month or so. We'll see that at that /AI website.
Great.
And it'll be, what are the things you should look at to determine if you're ready to adopt AI, which most schools are getting there. Yet it's been interesting, it's been around for a bit of a while now, and a lot of schools, they don't even know what's the first step.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think it's having some deeper conversations about what do we want to focus on. So actually, that's how we start these workshops. So built a GPT, like generative AI insights. So what are your, core values, your mission, that sort of thing? What are your demographics? And then this, GPT spits out, like, these are the conversations you should be having. So that's kind of a easy place to start.
Nice. Yes.
Just have those conversations with everybody at the top.
That's awesome.
Well, Pete, thanks for hanging out with us. We hope that you have a great day today.
Absolutely. Thanks. A lot.
All right, so we talk about CoSN and CoSN's community, and part of that community are the sponsors, the vendors, the companies that help make this happen. So I've grabbed CTL. I have Michelle Manchin with me and Jason Mendenhall with me. How's it going, guys?
Good. Excited to be with you.
CTL is a proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast and K-12 Tech Pro. So I pulled you guys away from your booth to hang out with me for just a few minutes. Would you guys just speak the general vibe of why are you here? What makes CoSN an important organization to be a part of?
Yeah, you can begin, Michelle. And
All right. We are also a sponsor of CoSN. We love this event every year. We think it's the most important event that we have. We participate in the committees. We think that the work that they do for advocacy is so important, particularly in connectivity. And right now, at this conference, we're seeing much more of an emphasis on sustainability, which is something that we are very into and want to talk about. So we just support this organization through and throughout the year. Yesterday, we had the privilege of our customer winning an award for a connectivity program. They built a private wireless network for their school so that their home insecure students could have connectivity at all times. And that was using some LTE-enabled devices that CTL makes. So we love CoSN.
Yeah. And for me, it's really the community and bringing them together to speak with one voice on policy issues.
Yep.
So we're a certified B corporation, so we're very committed to environmental standards. And having a community that's focused on similar outcomes and bringing them all together is really great. That's just one of many potential policy alignment issues. So we're really excited about that.
Great. So I know that CTL has Chromebooks, but I also know that CTL does a lot of other things as well. Would you tell? So we have a lot of listeners that are the one-person tech department to small to medium to large school districts. But would you just tell us a little bit about CTL?
Yeah, so CTL, we're manufacturers of Chrome OS devices, including Chromebooks, Chromeboxes, Google Meet systems. The biggest part of that is our Chromebook business, supporting K-12 education, so that's where we're very proud. But we're also looking to expand into ITAD services as well. One of the things we hear from our customers is we don't just want new devices from you. We want warranty, we want repair, we want refurbishment, and we want to make sure that responsible recycling is going on. So because of our commitment to the environment, we don't want lithium batteries going into landfills.
Yep.
And so by expanding our services to include that, what that'll enable us to do is give our customers credit for used devices toward the purchase of new. And we think as school budgets are getting tighter and tighter, that'll be a really valuable opportunity for IT leaders across the country.
Awesome. And there's some kind of announcement or news coming. Is that related to that?
Yeah. So
can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. I'll be a little bit coy because announcements are coming out a little later. But as a teaser, this coming Monday we'll be announcing an acquisition.
Okay.
That formally allows us to provide those ITAD services with R2V3 certification. So one of the things we care a lot about is privacy of student data.
Yes.
So we want to make sure as we are providing ITAD services, our customers have absolute guarantees of student data privacy. That's fairly easy with Chromebooks, given that Chrome OS is so secure and in the cloud. But when we buy back devices of all kinds from our customers, we want them to know that their student data is secure. So whether it's Apple, Windows, Chrome, we will take it all.
Awesome.
Yeah, there will be a certified data destruction process that we'll be able to offer with all of the audit trails that they need to prove that data is destroyed in a responsible manner from their take-back devices.
Really quickly, the last value proposition I would add to that is that will also enable us to provide our customers with refurbished Chromebooks. So as we are seeing budgets get tighter and tighter, we're seeing a lot of forecasts that student enrollment is declining in the country by 2030 by as much as 30%.
Yes.
In public schools. So we think the appetite for refurbished devices, both to bridge budget years, but also to fundamentally provide high-quality devices to kids.
Yeah, one of the trending conversations that I've heard some about, and there's many conversations happening, but it's about budget woes. It's about the concern for loss of dollars to a school district. So we're going to be looking at maybe not new devices. We're going to be looking at alternative devices.
Yeah, and especially because Google supports such a long AUE for all of these devices, but we know kids are hard on them. So typically we see devices from a physical perspective last about 4 years. But if we can refurbish those and get them back in the hands of learners, they can get 6 more years out of that. So we really think there's a strong opportunity to help that dollar go further for our customers.
Great. Well, CTL, thank you for sponsoring the podcast and K-12 Tech Pro, and I hope that you guys have a great day.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thank you so much.
All right, Mark, I just had CTL here, and they were mentioning this guy that won this award, and then we found the guy. Would you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Jason Ayer. I'm from Murray City School District in Utah, part of the Salt Lake Valley.
And then not only is he a guy that wins an award, and we're going to unpack that, but he listens to the podcast.
And he asked a question, which was,
where's the third guy?
I'm like, who was it that had to go to Disneyland and didn't I mean, I thought Bash at Disneyland, or you think that's like when you win the Super Bowl, right? You go there or something.
he goes there all the time.
Does he? Okay.
And let's not even say the third guy's name.
Yeah.
Probably should.
That third guy's name is like Jim or something like that. But anyways.
Yeah, I don't listen to a Disneyland podcast.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening to the podcast, but let's talk about you. Let's talk about this award. So would you tell us a little bit about the award and then why you got it?
Sure. The award, and this is one of these things I love about CoSN, is they recognize people.
Yeah.
We don't always get recognized in our industry.
Yeah.
And I love that they're doing that. And I love that I got recognized, I guess. I'll love that.
Yeah.
The award is the Community Partnership Award for Digital Equity.
Okay.
And it honors a district who has worked with their community and has been able to do something to help make a change in students' lives.
And share with us what that was.
Sure. So we're one of the pioneers in private mobility networking like LTE 5G. So we build a private 5G network. The part that our community comes into play, we were just putting small antennas on the outside of the school and reaching into the community to, during the pandemic and a little bit pre-pandemic, to help low-income students. In Utah, the digital divide shifted to families with lots of kids during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And then after the pandemic, we've been seeing problems more with homelessness and language. And so we found this empty tower in the middle of our community that public safety had built in 2004. It's 180 feet tall and it had nothing on it. And I remember standing on top of my high school by one of our little puny antennas that looks down in the neighborhood, and I'm like, what's that amazing thing? And we saw it was next to the animal shelter, and we reached out and we found the city owned it, and there were just some ham stuff on it, that they had moved public safety to a state level. The tower was sitting completely unused, and we're like, well, we showed them it was great because our technology worked at the city office. I'm like, yeah, we get 2 bars here.
Yes.
CBRS isn't real high powered, and they're just a couple blocks from the high school, so it's okay.
Yeah.
But the idea was, could we go on the tower? And the city attorney's like, well, we got to measure weights and do all this legal stuff, and so we sent them the manual for the tower, more than substantiated that it was ready for what we were doing. We were able, with the help of our state regional network, UEN, we were able to have their microwave specialists help us install on the tower, because we're just not. I'm afraid of heights. I don't know about you. Barely get on the school some days. But anyway, we were able to have the experts with the certifications take care of that. So we had to rent a crane because we went up about 120 feet.
Wow.
And we were able to take and fill in an entire part of our district that was next to a light rail line that didn't necessarily have very good coverage because of all the noise and things.
Great.
We were able to just look peacefully down upon it.
That's awesome.
So that's exciting. The other specific thing that's called out in our award and our nomination is we bought a second Chromebook for our students that are home insecure and used the Chromebooks we got from CTL. And CTL is kind of the magic here, if I can call them out. Their CTO found me and said, we're building Chromebooks that work with your private LTE. My answer was like, I've been waiting 4 years.
Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't find you either. And we started working together. He sent me their Frankenstein prototype. We tested it out. It worked great on our network.
Wow.
It worked around in the community, not just in the school. And so we were able to just have a place where a homeless student could lift the lid and go back to school, or lift the lid and do their homework and forget about all the challenges around them and just focus on what they needed to and continue to learn. And they also helped us with charging lockers, because when you think about, and there's different levels in McKinney-Vento of homelessness. There's with living with families, living with friends and stuff. Living in a park, living in a place that doesn't have sufficient facilities, in a hotel, all those things, and hotel Wi-Fi we've been enjoying.
Oh, we know.
The block screens all week, so to speak. But the idea with this is they needed a device that was charged as well. And then our community is full of older houses with not enough plugs in every room and all that fun stuff too. And so we were able to get charging cards where the kids would use their normal Chromebook that's issued with them during the day, go take that Chromebook and switch it out and let it charge all night, grab a fully charged Chromebook with LTE compatibility, take that home with them, and then do the switch in the morning.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
And the other interesting thing is with McKinney-Vento, we can't really out these kids. That's a huge part of this understanding is this is a silent service that you don't want to marginalize them further. And so what we were able to do is work with our principals and find parts of the school where after school had let out, they could sneak into, like, maybe it's a room next to the sick room. Or we put them in, I'll call them discrete places where they could go switch their Chromebooks when they needed to and be able to always have access to a fully charged device.
That's amazing.
And our teachers were very happy to see students come back into the classroom who were just going through so many unimaginable things.
That's incredible. And when did this happen? How long ago was this?
So the idea came in, we've started the network in 2019. We got on the tower in 2023. And the ECF, we tried to use ECF money to do it, and they held us up for a couple years. We got someone at the FCC to push it through, and then they wouldn't fund it because we didn't have a date in the right place, but we finally just bought the Chromebooks and did it.
Okay.
We got tired of waiting on the grant programs to make it happen.
That's awesome. May I ask how many students benefit from the program?
Sure. So we historically have had a flat line of 50 homeless students. It's been just this number. Last year, that went up to 120.
Wow.
So we bought 120 Chromebooks. Our state's done some really neat things with school-based mental health.
Yeah.
So we were able to have the school social workers help the kids. And in some of the situations where they're living with families, it's not quite as exciting. But we started with the kids, the handful of kids that were living in their cars. And the program's gone up and down. We don't have as many kids living in cars or parks this year. We have more kids living with friends, and it went down to 70. But we've got the devices there. We've got everything ready.
Amazing.
And we hope the world stops going crazy. But if it doesn't, we'll just match its crazy with our crazy.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, thank you for your work. Congratulations on your award. I know we kind of had to rope you into sitting down to unpack that with us. So thank you so much. And thanks for listening. We'll let John know that you stopped by and said hi.
Tell John that I don't have a face with the voice.
Yeah.
It's so nice to put voices to faces. It's amazing.
Very
to
cool.
sit across the table from you.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
You.
All right.
I'm with Amy Bennett of Lightspeed Systems. Lightspeed is a proud sponsor of K-12 Tech Pro and the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. Amy, how's it going?
It is going great. Thank you, Chris.
We were emailing each other and then realized that we were here together.
That's right.
Here a part of CoSN. And I just want to ask you, I mean, I know that Lightspeed has been a part of the CoSN community for years. Why is that important? Why does Lightspeed show up to this?
It's really similar to why we're a partner of K-12 Tech Pro. It's because these are organizations with people who are sharing challenges that we as a solution provider are aiming to help them with. We learn so much. We talk to so many people. It makes our products better. We hear what's going on in schools that we can help solve.
Yeah. I know that you have, is it Signal?
Signal's
correct?
The newest product, yes.
Would you introduce our listeners, if they don't know, a little bit to what Signal is?
I sure will. We just announced it a couple of months ago, and people are very excited about it, especially at a place like CoSN, because it is made for IT. And it is made based on us talking to customers, saying, what are some problems that you're having that we can solve? At its like summary level, it is app health, device health, and internet health.
Okay.
That means a lot of things. It's pulling data that you might be getting from 10 different systems all together to show you, where's my connectivity bad? When someone says, my Wi-Fi is slow, is it the device, the user, or the internet? You can pin that down to campuses. when an app is not connecting, we can tell you, is the app down? Is your network down? Is a classroom down? So helping IT get ahead of tech support calls and their phones blowing up when Canvas goes down or something goes down that impacts learning. We're giving them all that information, proactive alerts, just helping them get ahead of the challenges that can come up with tech in the classrooms.
Great. Well, I'm going to put a link in the podcast description to Lightspeed, to Signal. A great thing about CoSN 2 is seeing people face to face. You and I, we do a lot of email exchanges, but now I'm looking at your eyes. So it's great to meet you and great to see you here at CoSN.
Same to you. Thank you, Chris.
All right, so this took about 15 minutes to get you settled down with everybody who keeps coming up to the man of the hour.
That was a lot.
Keith Krueger, head of CoSN, man of the hour.
Pretty big deal.
Pretty big deal.
In this little niche world.
So we have really enjoyed the conference so far. Wonderful people, wonderful themes.
Yeah.
Tell us about the CoSN conference and maybe about the greater CoSN organization.
Sure. Well, it's the biggest conference ever here in Seattle, and we're happy. We know that it's we're heading into a challenging time, so it's great that people are finding community. Sorry, I have a scratchy throat. This is day 3 for everyone else, but we've been here since last Friday. So
oh, well.
It's been busy, yeah. But, CoSN's been around for over 30 years, and I've been around for almost all of those.
Wow.
And CoSN is, the professional association for heads of technology. We call them chief technology officers. They have lots of different titles.
Yeah.
And we do all kinds of things to build community and knowledge throughout the year. We'll be coming out with our State of Ed Tech survey that we do every year. Highlighted a few things about that, where people are with AI. Have you heard about AI?
Heard about it. I can't remember what it stands for, but yes, heard of it, yeah.
And things, small challenges like cybersecurity.
Really small.
Data private.
I'm surprised we're still talking about cybersecurity.
Yeah, we fixed it, right?
Yeah. Well, and nobody, the cyber criminals haven't found any districts.
So the other thing, and I forgot about this ahead of time, you are headquartered out of Washington, D.C.
Yes.
How's that going? No. You do a lot of advocacy work.
Yes, let's talk. This is real talk.
Yes.
Okay.
You do a lot of advocacy work on behalf of schools.
We do.
That is the buzz, the underlying buzz as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you're speaking on behalf of school districts for on Capitol Hill?
So one of the things we're focused on right now, we just in a joking way talked about the challenge of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
One of the most essential things that the federal government supports, we think, is MSISAC, which provide free or low-cost essential services to school districts. In fact, we partnered with MSISAC, the Center for Internet Security, 2 weeks ago on some data about how much of a huge problem this is for school districts. And literally a day or two later, the federal government eliminated all funding for it. Now, they're still figuring out how they're going to continue providing those services, but we're trying to make sure that Congress understands the short-sightedness of that decision.
Right.
So we have a real simple way that you can go on our website, put in your address, your zip code, and it pre-populates a message to your 2 members of the Senate and your member of Congress. It's really easy, telling them, please restore funding for MSISAC.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the podcast description to that. And Mark, you did that.
I did that. It took not even 30 seconds to do.
It's really easy.
I was able to send a big long letter to my state senator, my senators for the state and my reps, and
you can customize it. You can say here in Boston, we're
yeah. And I got a nice reply directly from my senator. I don't think he wrote it, but
you think it was AI?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, and last week, the biggest funding source for EdTech is, of course, the E-rate.
Yes.
And, the Supreme Court has a really important case on the constitutionality of E-rate and universal service. It's actually the administrative mechanism. So we participated, in a press event to talk about the value. 99% of public school students and 45% of private school students get their internet supported by E-rate.
Yeah.
The impact is huge. We also are the survey that we're just about to put out. I think it was 74% of chief technology officers said that it would be a major or a catastrophic loss if we were to lose E-rate. So we're going to have to really pay attention, make the case to Congress if the Supreme Court makes a bad decision.
Well, our previous episode to this one was a breakdown of that court case, and we felt pretty positive or optimistic. But as we've also learned, you never know.
You never know, but you're right. The discussion, and I was there listening. And, I think some of the justices recognized the disruption that this would cause, certainly to schools and libraries, but also to rural hospitals, also to rural telephone or internet provider.
Yeah. The Lifeline program was mentioned. Yeah.
When we've said, if no E-rate, well then, and so I'm in a 2,000 student school district that relies on E-rate. I get an 80% discount. So if no E-rate for me, well then that means my school has to pay that 80% of the bill, which is the taxpayers, the community paying the 80% of the bill.
Right.
This is a circle thing that's a really big deal.
It is. And, just huge challenges, especially in smaller or rural communities. Or under-resourced places like urban school districts like Boston.
Yeah. Well, we felt the impact of the MSISAC cuts, and I think everybody's very concerned about that. If E-rate is impacted, that would be a tremendous hit to this community. So on behalf of our school districts and the community at large, we thank you and CoSN for the advocacy work that you're doing.
Yeah, thanks. And I will say that over the last 2 months, we've also been in the final months of the Biden administration. The FCC allowed hotspots to be used under E-rate. There's an attempt by Senator Cruz, who's the new chair, to pull that back. And so we've been trying to, again, educate Congress on the importance of at least having the option to do that where it works.
Yep. I will end my one story I remember from the pandemic was when one of our instructional superintendents, we were closed, students were learning remotely, and they happened to go to a school building one day and found a student huddled underneath the playground structure with his Chromebook, learning because that was where he could get internet access. So we have seen very, very tangibly the impacts that hotspots and internet access have for our students of need, and we really hope that we can continue to provide those resources. So thank you.
Sure. Well, and I think, there's a general discussion among some policymakers. We even saw a very disturbing op-ed by Michael Bloomberg last week saying all ed tech has failed. And so, and it gets wrapped into this sort of screen time debate. Starting with Jonathan Haidt and his books about cell phones. I think there's a misunderstanding of the difference between, perhaps it does make sense to ban cell phones in class.
Right.
But that does not mean that the instructional strategies that we have around digital learning, that's the same thing. And in fact, a lot of students, they can't even, with special needs or what preferences, can't learn without technology. So we have to be very thoughtful. These overly broad and simplistic limit to minutes or hours of amount of screen time is very problematic.
Yes.
And we have to make sure that ed tech leaders are able to have a balanced conversation with their school boards, their communities, their parents.
That's great. That's great. Do you find that screen time has been a conversation here? Or?
It is. I just left from our CTO forum there in the other ballroom having that conversation of how do you kind of, when you have these, they sound compelling but overly simplistic policy pronouncements, how do you bring the conversation back? We never did. Part of the argument is we've given all this technology out and test scores have gone down. But did we ever measure pencils in the same way?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Keith. I know you've got a busy schedule. We'll let you get back.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. See you.
All right, Mark.
Yay.
I think we're done here.
I think we're done here.
We talked about AI with humanity's involvement.
Yes.
Humans are still important.
Keeping the human touch on everything you're doing with AI, on the policies, on the practice. Keeping the human in the center was the big theme of the week.
Yeah, not just, which is an interesting bit because a lot of schools are still dealing with just that generic question of what are we going to do with AI.
Yeah.
We need to be, I mean, that's how fast it's moving.
Yeah.
AI's been the trendy thing. I know last year, CoSN, maybe the year before, now we're getting to that human element that we need to not let go of.
Yep.
But I think I would say a quick hot take is if your school is not trying to figure out your path of what you're going to do with AI, you need to.
Yeah.
And you need to reach out, again, to your colleagues, to your community, find your communities that are going to be talking about this thing.
Yeah.
And get on it. What else? MSISAC, an important...
MSISAC was an important topic. We also heard from Keith Krueger about some of the different advocacy areas and funding and policies that they're talking about in D.C. And then we heard some really cool stories from Utah, from our friend here that we just met, who's talking about some of the work he's doing to provide LTE service to students in need. So very, very cool. Very cool conference.
Yep. K-12 techs are alive and well.
Yeah.
And we do hear these stories. We're doing more than just K-12 tech things.
Yeah.
We care about this bigger picture of what K-12 is doing in our nation.
Oh, yeah, a lot of folks come by and just kind of talk about, they listen to the podcast and talk about, it's great to hear that other people are having the same challenges as us, and sometimes there's a solution, and sometimes you just need to talk about it.
There's that phrase, we're going to end with this, we are K-12 Tech Talk, and so are you.
There you go.
Do you like that, Mark? Seattle, Washington, it's been fun. CoSN, thanks for having us.